Welcome back for the second half of our new season football chat here on Sheffield Live TV, talking Sheffield of a Thursday night. James Gregg will join us to talk about lots more besides football in this part of the show. Andy Giddings, sports editor of Radio Sheffield, is still with us, as is the chief executive of Chesterfield, Chris Turner. And before we come to you, James, your start to the season, you had a good draw at Oxford. Obviously, you've said you're disappointed to lose at Rochdale, and you're just joining everybody else in losing in the new EFL trophy, isn't it? EFL Cup.
EFL Cup,
named it. League Cup. Old money. So, what are your thoughts? What are the prospects?
Well, we've got 2 home games coming up now with Swindon on Saturday, Walsall Tuesday. If we can pick up a high number of points in those 2 games, we'll be happy with the start of the league season. I think Barnsley give inspiration to everybody in League One from last season, from where they start to where they ended up now playing in the Championship. So, I didn't mention this earlier, but the League Cup being the second game of the season puts managers under pressure, because you lose your first league game, then you lose your cup game, and then you're at one of the major cups. And then people then, what's happening here?
And if you lose the next one, it's 3 successive defeats.
It's a nightmare, because really, as I said earlier, it's a high number of games before the season pans itself out and everybody starts to play and have the confidence, and everybody's knitted together when you've got new players in your team that all teams have at the start of the season.
What do you make of the summer it's been and the recruitment? I know you're involved in that. Are you happy with the dealing?
Yeah, we're happy with the players. I know Danny is recruited well, and we feel that we've got the goals in the team, the pace in the team. We do have to tighten up at the back defensively. Our goalkeeper's only been with us for a number of weeks, but he's showed in the late pre-season games the ability that he's got, and he's got a run in front of him, because Tommy Lee won't be fit now for at least another 2-3 months. So Ryan's got an opportunity to get himself in that position, and we're confident that he will do well. But we've just got to get a pattern of play formulated in the league, and put some points on the board, hopefully, that we can do over the weekend with the 2 home matches.
There's always transfer speculation, even in League One and League Two, and you're in League One, and there's some outstanding players that could be signed. You have evidence of that all the time. I mean, John Stone's developed by Barnsley, and £47 million move to Manchester City, and you have had consistently over recent years players that have been wanted.
Well, I don't like talking about them, because people say after I've been on your programme, I'm trying to sell them or move them on. But we made a conscientious decision a number of years ago, early days of Paul Cook as manager, that we need to bring in, or we need to recruit young players, players from lower down that we can bring in, develop, and like we always have to do, sell a player or 2 at certain times in the seasons to help financial matters. And when we last saw last season Clucas and Deriqua, people were then saying, well, they're running out of players now, who to sell? But we've recruited and we've evolved a few players. I think it's the best situation for our club in youth football that we've ever had. Or for the last 25 years or whatever, with the number of young players now that are on the fringe of the 18 and are pushing for places is fantastic.
What's a hard sell is what you've just said, which is the reality as you see it in the football club, that every so often you've got to sell a player.
We didn't start the pre-season last year thinking we've got to sell Tendai and we've got to sell Sam Clucas. It just evolves because bigger clubs wanted him. And I was listening to Mark Warburton, the Glasgow Rangers manager, and he was saying that Rangers, clubs in Scotland, are selling their best players, or the players are leaving Scotland to come to England because the financial climate from Championship clubs is enormous compared to Scotland.
Yeah.
And what we do is we say, well, the boy's done well for us. He's got a great start to his career, and we wish him well because we can't afford to keep him. And I thought, well, we've just been doing that for 2 years, and some people call us unambitious. Glasgow Rangers are selling their players and Celtic to players down to clubs down south because he can't keep hold of them because of the salary increase that the players are going to get.
Owen Doyle from Scottish Premier League.
Hibernian, we got Owen on a free transfer, and Owen's now moved from Cardiff to Preston.
What do you think, Andy, in terms, before I bring James in, and we'll talk about Ched Evans shortly as well, what do you think about, you're under siege, as I am at times on social media. People are, rightly wanting their football clubs to do well, and understandably don't want play. For instance, Sheffield United have sold or have been in the process of selling Che Adams for a good fee. And I remember Nick Cox being on this show, who's now at Manchester United, was head of the academy, saying, and I've always remembered these words, that until we get a promotion or two, we won't be able to keep these. We just physically cannot keep these.
Well,
players.
it's market forces, isn't it? And it's player ambition. When I sit on Football Heaven, and I've sat on Football Heaven for many years, the point that seldom gets raised is the player wants to go. So the first big one, when I'd come to this part of the world to work, was the two Kyles that were ultimately going to end up at Tottenham Hotspur for £8 to £10 million. And if you listen to our phone, and it was almost as if Norton and Walker were stood on Fargate handing out cards saying, I don't want to leave. Well, of course they did. Walker, within months, was an England international and in Spurs' first team. Norton didn't have it quite so easy, but has now played an awful lot of Premier League football for them and for Swansea City as well. I think when you have a rational discussion with supporters, they accept it as a way of the world. However, you don't want to see the best players leave because it's the what-if scenario. Well, Chesterfield have had, Tendai Darikwa, as Chris has just mentioned, Owen Doyle, Gary Roberts, not a young player, but a player that's been moved on. It's the what-if. Just one more season, what if? Well, there are so many factors that come into that. Sheffield United have sold Che Adams. I, like you, think it's a great deal. To be honest, I may well have accepted a little bit less than that because he's far from guaranteed to start at Bramall Lane this season. If he realises his potential, they've got a sell-on clause anyway. And if he doesn't, he's the next Jordan Slew, and they've made £2 million for a player they've had for a short amount of time. I personally think it's a great thing that kids, young players, are getting these opportunities. And there was a time. There's always somebody else. So one hero leaves, the next one's only a couple of weeks away.
There were times, Chris, when players weren't moving up. There was a long spell where clubs higher up were not trusting lower league talent, but they seem to be doing that again, which is perhaps good for English
I
football.
think the coaching and everything else and lower, well, I won't say lower league, leagues 1 and 2. There's some excellent young managers, young coaches working at the clubs. We mentioned earlier the Rotherham result. Jim Bentley's done a fantastic job at Morecambe. And he's come to a championship club and scored 5 goals. Leagues 1 and 2, there's some good football, and there's some good managers, and there's some good young players. When I read in the newspapers, players going to sign for some of these Premiership clubs at 8, 9, 10 million, and I know it's not what supporters want to hear at the Premiership clubs, but there are some players in the lower leagues of 1 and 2 that are just as good as these 8, 9, 10 million pound players, who a lot of them are only average. Your Pogba's at 100 millions and 40 and 60 million players. They're top draw players. You don't see them in 1 and 2.
And as we're both salesmen, I've got to ask you, and we're accused of selling Chesterfield's best players, but I'd be accused of not doing my job if I didn't ask you about the speculation about Gaboli Aribi at the moment.
Gaboli's inconsistent, but when he has a good game, he's unbelievable. For me, he's one of the best players outside the Premiership in terms of potential, but he needs a bit more time, I'm sure, and he's got to get that consistency into his game.
There's nothing firm on the table, I believe.
No. There's no bids and nothing, and we're not. I'll reiterate, we're not looking to sell him. I know the chairman wants to keep this squad of players now for this season.
Looking to add to it.
Well, if the right player comes along, obviously.
There's nothing obvious at the minute.
No, but I mean, we've still got 3 or 4 key players who are not featuring at the moment. O'Neill, Martinez, Tommy Lee. So we've still got a number of players yet to make an appearance this season.
Well, the big eye-catching signing was, of course, Ched Evans, and we'll devote some time to that with Andy.
I'm sure you're looking forward to talking about that,
Chris,
lads.
no, we're talking about it's on-field purely. We've had a Ched Evans exclusion zone here for a long, long time, but now he's playing football again.
Which you've got to add, by the way, is completely fair, because there's so many legal things around that.
We can't talk about it.
You simply can't talk about it, so it's purely football.
Purely football.
Of course. In the meantime, whilst you get heads around that, we'll talk about Sheffield United. Lost to Crewe on Tuesday night following a loss on the opening day of the league season away at Bolton. Saturday marks their first home league game under new manager Chris Wilder. Take on Rochdale, who of course beat Chesterfield on Tuesday night in the EFL Cup. Looking to right a few wrongs, and as you said, Chris, you lose your first league game, you lose your first cup game, as it were. You lose on Saturday, all of a sudden turmoil, apparently, even though everyone knows it's probably not. So the Blades will be looking to put that one right.
Just before you go on, that gives us an opening to talk about Sheffield United. I hope you don't mind.
Of course,
we'll come back to the rest of it. 2 games, 2 defeats. I've not seen the Blades yet. I'm looking forward to seeing them on Saturday. As you have. But there isn't that despair and
no, and there shouldn't be either,
pessimism,
because it's a nonsense to even think so soon into the start of a season and so soon at the start of a new regime where they are trying to do things differently to the previous regime, and understandably so. For whatever reason, Nigel Adkins just didn't work out. Lowest finish in a long time last season. I didn't see the match the other night, but I went to Bolton last Saturday, and for half an hour they were superb. Absolutely superb. Bolton then changed what they were doing then and just defended and defended and defended. So ultimately Sheffield United have been beaten by a great goal from Jay Spearing. By the sounds of things, albeit clearly against very different and lower opposition, it sounded a similar story then. So tweaks, get a few goals, and they should be fine. Chris's recruitment process, far from over. He was saying this morning at the press conference he wants 4 more players, a bit more strength in the goalkeeping department, possibly. He's certainly after another midfielder. That you would imagine some form of forward reinforcement now that Adams has been sold, but whether that's a dyed-in-the-wool centre forward remains to be seen. And obviously we're talking about 4, so 1 other.
You'd expect them to be up there, wouldn't you, Chris?
Yeah.
Well, we've been saying that for years, haven't we?
We have.
I mean, I think it's the 7th season now. In League One. Sixth season in League One. It's a long time out of the top echelons of the game. I think with Chris, I think you'll certainly get the passion for the club, and it's.
He was linked with you, wasn't he? He interested you at one time.
Yeah. It's whether those players can handle playing in front of 20,000. That's we're talking about Saturday's game. An early goal will be required, I'm sure, and it's being able to handle. It's the difficulty when Wednesday we're in League One. United's in League One. It's the expectations and when you're playing the likes of clubs like Rochdale, who've got a team that's been together for a while now, and a manager that's been there a long time, they turn up on Saturday, they play the same way. When you're trying to build a team as a new manager, as Chris at United, he's got to come up against some good sides in League One. But the fans expect them to turn Rochdale over 2-3-0. It's not that easy.
I think now, Chris, they've realised that it's not that you're not expecting to turn Rochdale over 2 or 3-0. Be happy with 1-0 or something.
They're not, but at least at least they've got a transfer policy now that actually better suits the division.
I think.
I mean, how much money has that club wasted on players that clearly either didn't want to be there? Chris has mentioned the expectations. Well, all except the season when Danny Wilson was in charge. They've not handled those expectations at all well. And it is as much a mental thing with some of them, because you look at the players' CVs prior to and at times during their time at Sheffield United, they should have gone up ages ago.
Absolutely. Right, sorry to interrupt, mate.
It's quite all right. Talk about cultivating sort of the fans and the feel of a club. Well, Sheffield Wednesday certainly did that on Sunday when they played against Aston Villa. Newly relegated, of course, from the Premier League. Sublime finish from Fernando Forestieri. They'll want to forget Tuesday night's loss, though, to Cambridge when they take on another side that's newly relegated from the Premier League in Norwich City. Televised game on Saturday evening.
Quite a few televised games. Huddersfield coming up, I think, and also Leeds at televised games.
Yeah.
Sheffield Wednesday being picked on for these. That tells a story.
It does
Anyway,
tell a story indeed. Sheffield FC, well, they're at home to Romulus on Saturday. They get their Evo Stick season underway. While the Sheffield FC ladies side, they're actually unbeaten in their last 5 games. They get a break from the league as they take on Watford in their Division Cup trophy. 2 p.m. Sunday, Coach and Horses Ground, 500 spectators expected. Why not go down there and watch some really good ladies football? Mark Aston's Sheffield Eagles, not quite the season that they wanted. Outside of the top 4, of course, in the Championship, they're playing in what's called the Shield Trophy, along with the Bradford Bulls as well. They're playing against Whitehaven on Sunday. Thumped them last time out, 34-12. They're playing there against Whitehaven, as I said, at the Sheffield Hallam University Sports Park. Cricket, Sheffield Collegiate. Well, they nearly booked themselves a place in the National Finals Day of the T20 competition. They were playing in the North Area Final. Mike Simpson thumped 81 of 45 balls in the semi-final of the Northern Area competition before they lost on the very last ball on Sunday. Unlucky, great cup run though for them. Let's get on to the Olympics though. Plenty of Steel City flag bearers, if you like, in Rio de Janeiro. Masters champion Danny Willett is the first of them. He got underway today at level par 71 in the golf. He was the first British man to hit a golf ball in the Olympics in 112 years. So I think that's an achievement in itself.
It is, yeah.
But we've got some other Steel City talent getting ready to go. We've got Freddie Woodward in the men's 3-metre springboard, gets underway on Monday. Louise Bloor, who's graced this studio in recent weeks, she's in action in the 400-metre relay next Thursday, so we'll keep our eyes on that for this next week's programme. Yeah. And of course, Golden Girl Jess Ennis, for those of you wondering, when's she going to get in action? She gets in action tomorrow when the heptathlon starts.
Excellent. And Louise Bloor, we'd like her back.
We would like her back, hopefully bearing a medal.
With a medal. And
I've done my research. I think they've got quite a good chance of reaching the final. So
good.
We'll see.
Okay. And she did promise that she would return. I said, if you get a gold medal, you will come back and talk to us. She said, yeah. I've known people break those promises before.
She didn't sign anything, no, did she?
Ched Evans, I mean, that was the one that had the whole football world in the summer sat bolt upright at that. It was a major surprise. Not to you, because you were part of.
Well, we knew a good while before we actually made the move for Ched that there was a chance of getting them. Obviously, it's going to be controversial with in some areas.
In terms of the timing, I think people were assuming it wouldn't happen until after the resolution.
But you know, we sat down as a club and we talked it through, with various people, with the PFA, the Football League, the FA, Gordon Taylor, head of the PFA, and obviously we've got Richie Humphries, who's chairman of the Players Association, and we took our time, and obviously we spoke with Ched's representatives, and we made a unanimous decision that we were going to give him the chance.
It was a bold decision.
Well, somebody's got to take it, because he was going to sign for somebody.
Yeah.
And Danny
how
had
many others were interested?
about 5 or 6 clubs.
Right.
I can't name them because it would be unfair, but Danny had a relationship with Ched from obviously at Sheffield United, and we signed him as a footballer, and you know, he's certainly showed what he can bring to us already in a short space of time.
How far is he off showing? You know, I've not seen him play yet this season. I saw his goal on Saturday. Fantastic goal. How far is he, would you think, having spoke to Danny and some of the other coaches, off being like he was?
I mean, to get back to where he was a number of years ago, it'll take time, but he's already showed last week against Oxford. I think if it, you know, in a few weeks' time, he would have scored a couple of more goals. He created two chances on his own, and his touch was just a little bit out at this time. But striking the football and everything else, it's as though he's never been away.
Yeah. What about the way he's coping with? Well, he knew, and everybody knew, he was going to be the focus of attention and a target, particularly for away fans or home fans.
He's got tremendous mental strength.
Yeah.
And I think he's had to get that over the period of time, and you know, he's blended in with the team, with everybody at the club, and we've made a conscious effort to try and keep him out the limelight as much as we possibly can until 3 o'clock on Saturday, and then he goes out there, plays his football, and moving on to hopefully a good season with us. Has
he been getting much stick from opposition supporters?
Not really. I think it's died. I think it's died down. I mean, Oxford last week was nothing more than what Ebanks Blake used to get when he was playing up front for us when we played away from home. So you know, it's.
What was your view of it all, and were you surprised?
I've not surprised for the reasons that Chris has just said, and again, there had been quite a bit of talk for a while that it could happen.
It was logical, wasn't it, with the Danny Wilson connection?
My own personal take on the whole situation from start to finish, go with how it is legally. Now, clearly that's the safest thing to do as well, but ultimately right now, he's a free man. He's entitled to, if somebody wants to employ him and he wants to be employed by them and he's a footballer, then so be it. And he's free to play. So what? Yeah. So Chesterfield have signed a player who, before the sentencing and before spending time inside, scored 35 goals in one season for Sheffield United. If he can rediscover even that to half that standard, then Chesterfield will benefit from that greatly, won't they?
And in that respect as well, he was awaiting a trial during that season and played, so it's the same situation.
I don't, but I mean, everybody will have an opinion on Ched Evans from now until the day that Ched Evans retires from football. My own personal opinion is he's entitled to play football. What will happen in terms of fitness, what will happen in terms of what happens in October, November will play its course. Right now, off you go.
He's 27 years of age? Can he, just following on from James's question, can he get to the level he was at before?
Yes. Without doubt, we've seen it. Yeah. We've seen it in flashes, in training especially, and we're giving him an opportunity, and he won't be the first or the last that has been had problems off the field, and we as a club.
If that hadn't been the case, he would have been somewhere else.
Well, I mean, you'd have played for Wales in the European Championships and been playing in top Championship / Premiership football. We all know that. But we as a football club also, and I certainly respect everybody's opinion on it. We've spoken with people who are dead against it, and we respect their views, and it's all about opinions, and it's all about when eventually, or whatever happens eventually happens, nobody knows at this moment in time.
No, I mean, certainly views either side you have to respect, and and it was always going to be controversial.
But in the letter of the law.
Absolutely, in the letter of the law, he's not got a conviction against his name for anything, I believe, motoring or anything.
Nope.
Which is amazing considering the driving these days.
Nobody in this studio could probably say that, could they?
Do you know what? I can, but only after 5 years of really driving slowly.
Yeah, me too. I was on 9 points for an agonising period. I now drive like an old man. Not that I am an old man. I'm definitely not an old man. Thanks ever so much, chaps, for coming in. I really enjoyed it. Chris Turner, good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much.
Hope to see you again soon. Andy Giddings, we'll catch up with you very shortly, and I'll see you in the press box at Bramall Lane on Saturday. I'll be there for Sky this weekend. Looking forward to it. Thank you for your company. YouTube channel later if you missed. See you next week. Bye.